Hello friends, I'm gonna quickly do like a sit down. I am under the weather, so pardon all my cough breaks and all that kind of stuff, but I just want to quickly do a video to let you guys know that I'm still alive and kicking. Work is going okay, it's going well, but there is quite a bit that I'm learning all at one time, and it's a lot. I'm not gonna lie, it's a lot. For those of you who are new to my channel, welcome. My name is MelisaMarie. I make videos on nursing, lifestyle, and anything I really want, to be honest. I graduated this year. I started working as a new grad in the neonatal intensive care unit, or the NICU for short. If you're interested in that at all, any kind of ICU, critical care, working with neonates, definitely stay tuned, like, share, subscribe, and I'm gonna keep going with the rest of this video. So working in the NICU is super cool. It's definitely exactly what I expected. Someone messaged me on Instagram and asked me if it's what I expected or if it's different. It's exactly what I expected. It's intense. It's not like a nursery. I think a really big misconception about working in a NICU is that you get time to like cuddle babies and just like do cute stuff, which is not accurate. That's more like a newborn nursery or well baby nursery, or even like mother baby, because that's not what the NICU is for. The NICU is for babies that are sick. Granted, it might be different for the level of the NICU. So I work in a level 4 NICU, which is the highest acuity that exists. A level 3 might be also like a lot of anomalies and or X20 weekers and stuff like that, but they're not really gonna have like surgical babies or babies who need ECMO. So I guess that's what sets apart 3 from what 4. 4 is they are able to do surgeries with the babies. But yeah, the NICU is exactly what I expected. There's a lot to know in terms of the developmental age. So a baby who is 24 weeks versus a baby who's 35 weeks versus a baby who's full term 45 weeks. You're going to treat them differently and have different interventions for them. So far, I've had a lot of different kinds of babies. I've had 2 fetal demises already, which are babies who they don't anticipate are going to live a long time. So with those cases, it's really sad, especially with my personal history. But also, usually the parents are pretty involved, and you have to like provide education to the parents and kind of walk them through the process, hold their hand through the process, take pictures so that they can create memories with their baby. Mostly everybody in the NICU, every baby is getting some type of respiratory therapy, because the last thing to mature on a fetus is like their lungs. Though the mothers usually get doses of steroids, it's not usually enough to help because it's just not enough time for the lungs to develop. And also the lungs are like missing surfactant, which is important to keep the alveoli from being collapsed. So all of those things are missing when a baby is premature, and that's one of the things that we do when we have the premature babies. We give them doses of SERV, PPV, we give them all kinds of resuscitation techniques and interventions. Once the baby is actually on our unit, then take it over from there. So we'll have babies for a couple days and babies for months. But the couple days babies are usually babies who are like full term, they're okay. Maybe they just have like a blood sugar issue, or like little stuff like that. Maybe they have like an issue with feeding, which to be honest is not something we should be dealing with in a level 4 NICU, but it happens. But all in all, it's been really cool. My preceptors are cool. I have 2 preceptors for day shift right now. Well, I had 3 to be honest, but 2 main ones. My main one, she's awesome, love her to death. My second main one, she's cool, but I feel like we kind of have a little bit different styles as far as critical thinking goes. I feel like we're just slightly not there together. Everybody on my unit seems to be really friendly. I haven't really experienced any nurses trying to eat their young at this point. Regardless, I'm the wrong one for them to try that out on. So there's also like a really large population of young nurses on my unit, like baby nurses who are like 20, 21 to 25, and also who are brand new like me. So bunch of new grads. I think they said like the average age of a nurse on the unit is like 1.5 years, which is really scary, just simply because a lot of nurses left with COVID, having to deal with COVID in the NICU and having to deal with RSV and stuff with kids in the PICU. All of that was a lot for a lot of the nurses, and a lot of nurses left for travel contracts, of course. And so the unit just got really stretched. Like there would be a lot of times that people have 3 baby assignments, which is inappropriate in ICU. It should be 1 patient, 1-to-1 or 1-to-2. You will see some 1-to-3 sometime, and that's really really, really bad. From a safety perspective and from a quality care perspective, you know, if this unit is short-staffed, what can you do, you know? So what kinds of things do we see in the NICU? We see, of course, babies who are born because the mom's having an issue, whether the mom is having preeclampsia, premature rupture of the membranes, placenta previa, or placental abruption. Anything that risks the mom's life or risks the baby's life as well, we'll get a stat C-section and have a neonate that way. Once you have a neonate, basically, depending on how old they are, they'll be like either in an isolette, which is like the box that you mostly think of when you think of a preemie, which has the little portholes where you put your arms in to do all of your cares. So we'll have babies in an isolette, or they'll be in an open like an open isolette without the top on it. If they're big enough and can maintain their temperatures, their thermal regulation is all together, then they can be in a crib. Working in the isolette at first was a little bit difficult, just like figuring out where to put your hands and how to make it all squeeze into one little space. But now it's nothing, like it's super easy. You get used to it over time. Working with the cribs is like anything, you just gotta always make sure to put your side back up whenever you walk away. A lot of the times the babies are fed like gavage, which means through a feeding tube. They have like an NG into their nose, down to their stomach. If they're not developed enough to have a suck, swallow, breathe mechanism, which most preemies don't have, then we just feed them via feeding tube, and that's usually until like speech language pathology or OT works with them to help with feeding, and also until they have their first poop, I think. Also, baby's not getting any feeds, then they're going to be getting some kinds of nutrition from IV fluids, so usually like TPN lipids will be hung. But like I said, I love the NICU. I'm pretty sure it's where I want to be. I'm like 90% sure it's where I want to be. Part of me feels like I might enjoy the PICU as well, but not really. Just in terms of like being able to talk back to my patients and them talking back to me, versus just talking to your patients and it's just nothing. Sometimes I feel like I would like to have a patient talk back to me, but most times I really enjoy that they can't talk back. But even though they can't talk back to me, I still talk to them like they're a regular patient, you know? I'm like, hi, baby girl Jones. Hi, baby. How are you doing? I'm Melissa, your nurse. I'm gonna be taking care of you today. But at the same time, you gotta be quiet. Like I'm loud right now. But especially if they're in an isolette like that, the isolette works as like a greenhouse almost. Like everything gets magnified in there. So you gotta be on your whisper game. You gotta be like, hi, baby girl. I'm gonna take your blood pressure. I'm gonna take your temperature. Oh, you're being a good girl. Oh, you had a big poops. We had a big poops. Like, you know, like very light and gentle with them. You gotta remember that the name of the game is like to mimic the womb, and the womb is so protective for these babies. So the minute that they're out, they just become immediately overstimulated. So you don't want to do anything that's going to cause them to become more overstimulated, because that's going to F up their vital signs and have them all out of whack. They're already uncoordinated as is, so you know, you just want to keep their environment very stable, because their internal environment is not stable. Somebody else asked me in my DMs as well, have I had any babies die? I personally have not had any of my babies die, but like I said, I have had fetal demise babies where I knew were going to die at some point, and also some of the babies I've had have passed away like a few shifts after I've had them, and that has to do with like intubation, extubation type stuff. Like if the baby was extubated and wasn't able to maintain while being extubated, that can be a cause of death. And generally, if the baby is not ready to be out in the real world, and you know, they're 24 weeks, 25 weeks, 26 weeks, it's just too soon for them and they're struggling really hard. The work of breathing is a lot. You'll see nasal flaring, you'll see a ton of retractions, subcostal, intercostal, see all the retractions, every single one of them. The pursed lip breathing, all of it. I'm not really sure what else to say in this. I just wanted to give you guys a quick update as to how I'm doing, how I like my unit and everything like that. So far so good. So I'll just give you like a brief overview about how my day usually goes. Usually I wake up like 6 o'clock, sometimes 5:30. I leave the house by 6:30. I live really close to my job, like 10-15 minutes. I get to work by like 6:45 to 6:50. I swipe in. Once I'm swiped in, then I put my stuff in the locker, and I go ahead and grab some index cards, and I go ahead and get a report from the night nurse about my babies. In my report, I make sure I get any information that's pertinent. So like the respiratory therapy is always super important. So if they're on room air, nasal cannula, if they're on a jet, if they're on an oscillator, any kind of ventilation, CPAP, BiPAP, CPAP, etc. I want to get that information down, of course. If they're intubated, you got to get the ET tube size, which usually is like a 2.5 or a 3, I guess. You need the landmark of where the tube is to the gum. You need to know what kind of neobar they're using, like a yellow, a blue, clear, whatever the case is. These are just things you need to know in case there's an emergency and you need to quickly re-intubate or quickly have some kind of emergency intervention. Of course, you want to know what the oxygen that the baby is getting. So the FiO2, the lowest is 21%, but it can be up to 100%. If a baby is on 100% FiO2 though, they're probably not doing that great. Unless they're gonna go home on oxygen, then they'll keep them up there at 100%. But for the most part, the name of the game is to try and wean the babies off of 100% oxygen. So yeah. Anyway, I get my report, get all the information. Then once the night shift nurse leaves, I go ahead and go into my MAR, write down all the meds that are going to be due for the day, the times that they're going to be due, and anything special about them. I write down any drips that I might have, any PRNs that I might have, write down my lines so I know where am I checking patency for or what's infusing in the lines. Then I also go into my orders to make sure I didn't miss anything as well. So I don't know if sometimes the providers put in some last minute like labs or like a chem strip, which is like your blood sugar, an ABG. I do all that, plan out my day for both of my kiddos, and then I just pretty much just organize my day from there. Usually speech, PT, or OT, or all three will walk around and ask like, hey, can I see your baby at so and so time, or what time is good for me to see your baby, so that they can schedule times. Especially if a baby is newly attempting to PO feed, then speech and OT are definitely going to want to be super involved with that baby, just to help them develop their suck, swallow, breathe mechanism. Like literally you'll have some babies who literally will suck, swallow, and then forget to breathe. But not even forget to breathe, they just don't have it down like the pattern yet. They got to be taught it. So yeah, once I get my appointments all scheduled, then I go ahead and start my first cares at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, depending on if they're Q3, Q4, Q6. Once I start cares, I make sure I do all my safety checks, which is just like the respiratory draw for any kind of emergency resuscitation. You check the neopuff, the AMU bag, all of these things. It's like so much. And then you do first set of cares. You take vitals, you listen to their chest, you listen to the heart, the lungs, the belly sounds. Then you want to aspirate their NG tube to make sure that it's patent. Use the landmark, make sure it's in the right place. Check their fontanelles, check capillary refills, their reflexes, make sure that they're nice and full range of motion and not like tonic, what do you call that, rigid. And yeah, check the umbilicus. If they have their cord still on, make sure it's nice and dry and not covered. Change the diaper, check if there is any stool. Measure, we have to measure everything. Everything is measured in and outs. All that goes in, all that goes out, it's all measured. Make sure they have bottles. If they're getting breast milk, they gotta get their bottles prepared in the system. If they're getting formula, then it's not that big a deal. You just give them the formula. Though I will say, them formula poops is next level ghetto. They're next level ghetto, but we love a good breast milk poop. It's chef's kiss. If mom or dad is in there, sometimes they like to help with cares, but it just makes it super long. Which, by the way, cares is what you call like year round. So you do cares every 3 hours, 4 hours, or 6 hours, depending on the baby and the order and their status and whatever they need. Doing all those cares, then you go ahead and feed them, set up the feeding pump, usually, or kangaroo, whatever it is. Or if you're bottle feeding, you swaddle them nicely and take them out of their crib or isolate and bottle feed. I'm still learning all like the rules and stuff as far as like what age is appropriate for what. For example, if the baby is under 1,000 grams, then they get weighed at night. They don't get weighed during the daytime. If the baby is under 1,500 grams, they cannot be swaddled, or they can't put clothes on. If they're under 1,800, they can't be swaddled. On top of like, you know, I'm still a new grad. I'm in nurse residency. We have hella classes and trainings, modules. Like sometimes I gotta go in for a 4th or 5th day just to get through all of this stuff. It's a lot, and I'm probably only like 20% done on my training. And right now I'm on days as well. They start everybody off on days. I can't wait to go to night shift. I switched to night shift next week. I can't wait. Mornings have been really rough for me. I think nights will be a lot better, but we only know once I actually experience it. So hopefully. Of course, nights are more chill. Like days has all the rounding with all the residents and fellows and NPs, and it's just too many people, in my opinion. It's too much going on, too busy, too everything. So I'm excited to experience night shifts and see how that is. I'm also interested in night shift because night shift is where all the drips get hung. So it would be interesting for me to get more experience with the Alaris pump and having a baby with like a morphine drip, a fentanyl drip, a Versed drip, having their med line, keeping the med line clear so that they can get like hydrocortisone if they're getting that, or if they're getting TPN and lipids because they're MPO, and keeping them all together is definitely going to be a challenge, but I'm really interested in that challenge. It seems like a lot more technical, I guess, for me, and that sounds like something that would tickle my critical thinking fancy. Oh, also in the morning as well, if your baby is on any narcotics or has a bunch of lines, you do have to do a check off with the nurse who gave you a report, where you just read the baby's name, date of birth, MRN, and the medication they're on, the concentration of the medication. So like morphine, 25 milligrams and 50 mLs of normal saline. The dose that was ordered is 0.5 milligrams. The rate is 2 milliliters per hour or something like that, you would say. You're just going to be verifying that this is all correct in the actual pump and that this is what the baby is getting. Trace all your med lines back, and that's really that. So like I said, it's very intense, it's very extensive. Everybody's very helpful, very willing to jump in and give you some guidance if you need it, which I really love. It makes me feel like I'm never going to be quite alone, which is good, at least in the beginning when I'm getting my foundation comfy. I really love the NICU, and I hope that people find this video interesting and kind of opens your eyes a little bit more to what the NICU is like. It's definitely a lot of noises as well. There's a ton of sounds that you got to get used to. Sometimes things sound like they're going wrong, but they're really not. Like the jets will just make some random beep, 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 beep noises, and you'll be like, oh my god, is my baby dying? Like, no, it's just the jet being stupid. Or like getting used to like the heart rate. Usually you feel like if you hear a heart rate speeding, it's bad, but in the NICU it's not. It's good. It means the baby is bouncing back. It's usually if you hear a slow heart rate, like a boop, 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 like that's bad, because that means the baby is bradying, which means their heart rate's decreasing, which if it decreases enough, it's gonna stop, you know? Sometimes you'll hear the boop, boop, you'll hear the slow rate, and all of a sudden it'll go boop, 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 and it'll like speed up. And like, I think the natural instinct is to be like, oh no, it's getting faster, that's bad, but it's good. That means it's catching up. You know, babies have faster heart rates. That's my life so far, guys. That's my life, how it's been in a NICU. I will give you guys a more in-depth update hopefully sometime soon. And also I hope I can finish a like proper week in life, because it's been really crazy and hectic. For now, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And make sure you comment down below any questions you may have about the NICU, about being a new grad nurse, about NCLEX, anything. Comment down below your questions, and I will see you in my next video. Look more.